to another episode of the Aliens and Cowboys podcast. I'm Joe. With me, as always, are Garrett and Nate.
Hello.
Hello.
Tonight, we are going to be discussing Season 8, Episode 5 of Game of Thrones. Before that, though, just want to do the normal pop culture routine that we like to touch on here. I'll keep it brief for what I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, who fans of the series don't need it brought to their attention, but John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum releases this week on the 17th.
That's the name, Parabellum?
Parabellum, yeah. I'm excited. It looks amazing. I don't usually put a whole lot of stock in what critics say, but anytime a series like this can go as far as it has and still be well regarded, and then the third installment comes out and critics and fans alike are calling it the best installment of the three, pretty rad. So I'm excited. Keanu Reeves is just a powerhouse.
I think I've only seen the first one.
What?
Because of the dog thing?
Yeah.
I kind of got upset with that.
Fair enough.
And I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Oh, totally. Like, you can see why that's the trigger that kind of pushes him over the edge and he just snaps.
Yeah, that wrath continues.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I've seen parts of the second one. I just only really remember that I know I've seen the first one because he gets the dog at the end of the first one. So I know I've seen that. I know that... Okay, let me ask you this. Is there a part in the second one where his house blows up, you think his dog dies again, but it doesn't?
No.
Different movie. Got it.
No.
It's all good. It's all good. Either way, Chapter 3 looks awesome. There are yet more dogs. Halle Berry, I think, has two... right as I was about to say German Shepherd, I'm not sure if they're technically quote-unquote German Shepherd. They could be a slightly different breed, but it looks awesome. Anyway, so the dog theme continues, is my point. There's a scene from the previews with him, like, riding a horse, and he's fighting from the horse, and then he's doing a bunch of kung fu on the back of a motorcycle. It just looks insane. I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Neo does know kung fu.
Yeah, that's very true. I know kung fu. Yeah. Really great. Actually, let's touch on that really quickly as well. I think you heard a rumor, Garrett, about maybe
a fourth Matrix movie or a potential new trilogy. I don't think this is necessarily a new news alert, but I think that the Wachowski sisters are really pushing the possibility with Keanu Reeves. And I think Keanu Reeves even talked about potentially coming back for a fourth Matrix movie, if not a brand new trilogy.
That'd be sweet.
Totally be on board there's kind of this... There's also, we've always talked about extended universes in here.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really in the trilogy, but it was in that Animatrix, I want to call it, the Animatrix, where they had like that 10-episode part where like it was just random things that kind of showed you that the universe existed larger than just the Neo story. And I think that that's kind of one of those things where everybody wants to extend the property.
Exactly.
You know, they want the IP to be big. They want to be able to have 5 to 10 movies out of this thing. You know, what better way than to reboot the Matrix with the world that has?
Yeah.
That would be pretty interesting. And to be fair, I kind of am going to be on the record of saying I don't think it needs Keanu Reeves. I kind of want it to go without him.
Okay.
Your guys' thoughts on that?
Unless there's another iteration of the 11th Neo or whatever it was, or it's a prequel, I don't see the need to bring him back either.
Yeah, but like you said, just because we know that in the Matrix there are other ones before him, I think you could do another iteration of the one without him.
Yeah, that's kind of funny too. How many ones are there?
Yeah. Where's the line? Where's the stop? Yeah, you know, I kind of agree. I love Keanu Reeves, so I would love to see him, come back in that role. But I understand kind of if they're going to pursue a new trilogy, finding a new cast of characters to introduce, kind of like what Star Wars did, of course, reinvigorate the franchise a bit. Yeah, I'm good with that too. So
okay,
yeah, definitely. Nate, you were starting to play a game, I believe.
Yep. So, like I said, I usually get to games a lot later. So if you're feeling like getting into something and single player possible, I just purchased Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah,
big into just Greek mythology in general, and Assassin's Creed was always an awesome game back in the day, and this is a lot different. It's much more of an RPG element to it, less so like action adventure, but having a blast playing it. I can see how long it's going to take me to get through this enormous map that they have for it, but a lot of cool, interesting things they did, a lot different from what I remember from back in the day playing probably Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 back in the day.
It's come a long way since those earlier games,
I
for
think
sure.
we need to make this like old video game corner, like a Nate thing. Like you just come in every once in a while and talk about what 10-year-old video game that you hooked back up and are pounding away on.
It's not that old yet, but it's been out there for a good amount of time.
What Assassin's Creed are they up to right now? Like 8?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
They have like 3 Black Flag, Origins, Odyssey.
That's a lot.
Rogues. I don't know.
I think the last one I played through in its entirety was Black Flag, I think.
Is it the pirate one?
It is. It's fantastic. I love that game. They did such a good job with ship-to-ship combat, and then how you can seamlessly hop onto the enemy ship and continue fighting hand-to-hand if you want.
So you get
super cool.
an element of that, too.
Oh, cool. Okay.
In Odyssey as well.
Nice.
So you have a ship, and you can upgrade it, and then you can have ship attacks, and then you can also jump on board other people's ships and take them over, too.
Let's be fair. Joe thought he was playing Master and Commander over there.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what I thought.
You
cool.
play with an eye
Master and
patch on.
Commander Simulator. Let's hop into this.
I did have one thing to add in, and I forgot about this. I got a surprise last weekend for Mother's Day.
Okay.
Not that the present was coming to me, but I got told I was going to a movie that I did not know about when I walked in. I think it's called The Hustle with Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson. Okay. And it's kind
it took me a second. I
Yeah.
think I've seen previews for it. All right.
Hadn't seen a preview of this movie before I walked into it. They're con artists, and they're two completely different con artists, obviously, as you can tell between Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson. But it turned out to be a pretty funny movie.
Nice.
It had some really good moments. The entire, half the movie, Rebel Wilson tries to act like she's blind. And the comedy that ensues with that, and Anne Hathaway is this doctor that's going to cure her of the blindness as they're trying to con each other too.
Okay.
It was clever. It's kind of like a Dirty Rotten Scoundrels type movie of two con artists.
Oh, yeah,
Kind of has
yeah.
some Ocean's 11 type feel stuff to it.
That's cool.
I don't think you need to see it in theaters, but if it popped up on HBO, I would recommend it.
Nice.
It's worth a watch.
Very cool.
Other than that, let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Episode 5, what's it called? The Bells?
The bells.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What about them?
They didn't mean anything.
Yeah. They were a ringing, and Danny wasn't to listening.
Yeah. So, you know what? Sorry. Let's get into this. But before we deep dive the episode, I wanted to talk about the show as a whole first. And this season does anybody so far have this show ranked in their top 10 all time?
Yes.
Okay.
I do not currently.
I do not either.
I want to readdress, too, because I think there was a question in our introductory episode to Game of Thrones that you posed to us when we did that recap episode of, would it be on our Mount Rushmore of best shows? Kind of shot from the hip and answered yes at the time. But now that I'm going back through, when you prompted us to think about some of these things, I'm like, actually, no, it's really not. Which is why I'm now answering. It's probably not even in my top 10.
Takes these backsies.
Takes these backsies. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask this question then. So, Nate, this is in your top 10. Is it top 5?
It's lingering around that top 5.
Let me ask, has this season done anything so far to move the show up or down in your rankings?
Down.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything the show can do in the next episode to salvage it and move it up?
See, I don't think so, and I hold out hope it's going to stay where it's at, but I don't think it will, because now we've got so many questions that we need answering in, 90 minutes. I don't know that they'll extend this episode longer than that. But
Nope, I think we are 80 to 90-minute runtime, I think.
You just feel so rushed, and you don't feel that that natural progression of this build-up of character building and stuff. It's just like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And here's the thing, I don't want to blame the actors. I don't want to blame the writers. I do want to blame, and I don't want to blame HBO. I'm going to blame the directors to some degree, the showrunners, because they clearly want to get done with this. But to be fair to them, when they signed on to this, they were adapting this work. They did not plan on finishing this work.
Yeah.
And so these guys clearly, and I've always been on the record that the best shows are the shows that were adapted from actual R.R. Martin screen, books and the best material. And when he kind of quit writing books, because I think, and again, haven't read the books, but I believe they end at the time where Jon Snow gets stabbed. So if you're a book reader, before the show came out, you really did not know if Jon Snow survived.
Because maybe he doesn't in the books.
That's the thing too. Right? Is we have a reality here where we have a different ending for the show and a different ending for the books. And the reason why I say that is because I know the impression that Benioff and Weiss do know how R.R. Martin wanted to end it. I think they know how to get to X, but how they get to X is, I think, different. And it's very possible if this is... Because I think a lot of people, I saw today, there's a petition online, already up to 25,000 signatures, it was on Twitter, to have them completely refilm the entire season of Game of Thrones already. But I think if it's very unpopular and a backlash, why can't R.R. Martin call an audible and change that assuming he ever finishes it?
True. And
so,
yeah.
And maybe why wouldn't HBO do it? Right? Because if they have this much interest in
they're not going to refilm it. Because first off, Benioff and Weiss are going on to Star Wars. They've got, I believe, 3 films in Star Wars.
A whole trilogy
that they're going to work on. So, and to be fair to them, they didn't mean to write this. They weren't supposed to finish the show. The show was supposed to be done. They originally were going to go to a show called Confederate.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't know if HBO pulled it yet. I know that there was rumor that they pulled it. Last I checked, because I was very interested in this show, I know it's a very controversial topic of the show.
Sure.
But last I looked into it, I don't see any updates on anybody announcing it. I heard HBO say they were still doing it, but then I've also not seen anybody talk about it. And because they're going on to movies, it makes me think that they're kind of putting Confederate away.
And taking into consideration, I also thought back, they are looking at prequels and spin-offs from Game of Thrones as well.
Yeah.
To kind of scratch that itch for every other fan.
Yeah, that's very true. They definitely have, I think, a lot in the works for that.
There's 5 options, I believe.
Jeez.
But you know what? They've got time. I mean, this is their big golden goose. This is by far their most successful show they've ever had. And so, obviously, they need to take a step back. Hopefully, Westworld to them can really regroup in the 3rd season and come on strong. They added Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad.
Oh,
to the cast,
nice.
so
Okay.
he's obviously a big name.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting, too. Sorry,
no,
I didn't mean to cut you off there. Just the trajectory the show has taken. In earlier episodes, I'd commented on how George R.R. Martin has found himself in a very unique position that I don't think many authors have found themselves in, where now the show adaptation has surpassed what has been written.
Yep.
And I thought maybe that would be challenging for him at first.
Yeah.
Well, now with how, unfortunately, negatively, this season especially, but also last season to a certain degree, has been received, I think now he's in a great position in order to be able to write a conclusion that will probably be more satisfying to a lot of people in the books versus how it's progressed so far in the show.
I think it's kind of funny for him to take a look at it and say, hey, you take a trial run first and see how they receive it. The audience receives it. And then I'll write my finale to it.
He gave him the first draft outline for his conclusion to the series, and he has a backup one. He's like, oh, okay, going with option B. Got it.
Well, and here's
taking notes.
Right, and here's the thing. If it's, like I said, if it's not popular, why wouldn't he just change it?
Yeah,
and he could go with a completely different route.
Yeah.
Now, again, assuming he finishes it.
Right.
Okay, so I'm interested then. We'll come back to this question here, because to me and Joe, it's not in our top 10s. And I'm not trying to say it's... Here's how I'm going to phrase this. It's not that I'm not saying it's not a top 10 show all time. Because if you were to say best production, best acting, best show, how great is this show, I do think that Game of Thrones should be in the top 10. If you're going to ask me, is it one of my top 10 favorites, I'm going to say no.
Yeah,
and I'm going to pick shows that are lesser, that I still think I enjoy better. That
they just resonate with you more so than...
Yeah, and to be fair, in 5 years, I'm going to watch these shows again before I watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
exactly. Granted, Game of Thrones is a bigger sludge to go through, but the reality is there are shows I'll watch before it. Can
I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Top 10 is Married with Children in your top 10?
Married with Children is probably in my top 3.
Nice.
No kidding.
Yes. Which, by the way, if anybody...
I know you love that.
I love that show. Own every season of that. If you are a Hulu subscriber, all of Married with Children, I believe, is on Hulu right now.
Okay.
And there's no TV, well, I should say no comedy better until The Office. I think The Office is the best comedy.
You know what's funny is you hear everybody, oh, we couldn't have done that show today. There's no way they could have done a lot of the things that they did. Even The Office mentions that, too, about how we never would have gotten away with a lot of the jokes that we played on that
To
show.
be fair, Michael Scott, with the Me Too movement, the fact that he's always hugging and kissing and, doing sexual harassing jokes, there's no way that he would have... First off, there's no way he'd keep his job.
Well, right, yeah.
Yeah. But, anyways, digression. We'll come back to that. So, we're talking about the bells here. So, this is the episode that was supposed to be bigger than the Battle of Winterfell. opinions? Did you guys think this battle was bigger, better? You could see it.
It did take place in broad daylight, which helped from a visual standpoint.
Yeah.
Yes. Overall, from a spectacle standpoint, let's focus on that for a second. Yeah, it was amazing. It was terrifying. It conveyed, I think, everything it was trying to convey in terms of the people of King's Landing being completely helpless and terrified at what was happening. So from that kind of gut punch perspective, I think it delivered. We can dive into how that came about a little bit later.
Sure.
Compared to the Battle of Winterfell, for me, we've talked about this a little bit off the air. Battle of Winterfell trumps this episode in my book.
Such a letdown.
Oh man, I still love that. I was overly critical, I think. After my rewatch of that, I really loved the Battle of Winterfell. So that is still at the top of the list for this season so far for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Joe on that. I did enjoy that episode more than I did this one. Like I knew it was coming, but then you're trying to one up the previous episodes, and I don't know that they did that very well here.
Well, I think one thing that's way different is like Danny. I want to get to Danny as a whole, so let's leave Danny out of this right now.
I agree.
Okay, so Danny's sidebar. It seemed like the Battle of Winterfell that the Army of the Dead just totally overtook them, whereas this was a complete reversal of that. With Drogon, the King's Landing just didn't have a chance. Like this was, I've seen it likened to. This was a dropping of an atomic bomb on the city, and this was, and we think about this too. If we go back and think about. She had 3 dragons. And if one dragon could dismantle the Golden Company, an entire Iron Fleet, entire King's Landing, what could 3 dragons have done? And then you have to ask yourself, clearly, we thought by them taking out the dragon with a couple arrows, which again was kind of ridiculous, that somehow it would have been even. And they totally circumvented that by just letting the dragon just decimate everything.
Yeah.
And so it totally made it that this Golden Company that they introduced in the first episode literally meant nothing.
I enjoyed that about this episode. Now, if we had a huge build-up with Harry Strickland and the Golden Company and we focused on them individually more, to have the rug pulled out like this, it might have delivered differently, in my opinion. But the fact that all we really heard about was the rumor of how great they were, and then have them not matter. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great.
I agree.
Great way to undermine that.
I'm okay with that. I was fine with them the way they handled that because let's be fair, they should have no ability to handle a dragon.
Yeah, it's
especially when it's coming from behind them.
Yeah.
But I do think that they have mentioned the Golden Company multiple times throughout the show.
They do.
I think that
they
could have done something where they would have showed us to illustrate how important they were. So. The fact that the dragon is able to just simply decimate them and that they become irrelevant would matter more. Because I know there are a lot of people made the idea is, what if they break their contract? Well, I didn't care because we didn't have any idea of what their contracts mean. Understanding that they don't break them, we didn't have any idea to qualify that in the show to say, these guys are so loyal.
Yeah, and that's I completely got this prediction wrong because I predicted it was going to be a contract issue. Something with the Iron Bank and the funds was going to fall through. Clearly... that in its entirety meant nothing.
Put the Iron Bank and the Golden Company with the Valyrian steel and things that just don't matter.
They don't matter.
The Battle of the Prophecy or the princess who was promised. Put all that aside to things that they just don't care about, and we're probably not going to get answers to.
Yeah. To touch on your guys' points, one on the not Danny necessarily, but the dragons. What a disservice they did with I don't know the second one's name that died.
Rhaegal.
Mm-hmm. How easily killed it was as compared to having a single flying target with all the whole Iron Fleet, the scorpions on the walls everywhere, and it decimates what you would think a dragon would do, but there was no inclination of what it could do in what it could do in the second not second episode.
Yeah. So
right, yeah, in the previous
put a
episode
pin on the destruction of King's Landing. Let's go back. Let's do
I just want to touch on one
go ahead.
thing. Again, you guys hit the nail on the head with that the Golden Army. There's all these rumors and whispers about how powerful they are and intimidating they are, and they're all clean shaven and whatever, and they just boom, they're gone instantly. And there was supposed to be the game changer about maybe we should rest some more and rest our men, and no, just dead.
Okay,
just gone.
Yeah, let's do. Let's circle back to the beginning here and let's talk about Varys.
Yeah.
So Varys is obviously. I saw a funny quip that was almost like a chain email where he's emailing to everybody, and it's like a forward, and it says, John's the true ruler, send to everybody, send to 10 people But let's talk about Varys. So Varys obviously tries to have a conversation with Jon on the sand, basically on the beach.
Yep.
To basically say, look, I know who you are, you need to do this, basically saying she's not going to be good, she's going to be the Mad Queen, obviously a huge foreshadow. Tyrion's obviously watching this. Tyrion goes on to have the discussion with Daenerys. Basically lets it out that Varys is the one that is kind of backstabbing her, trying to circumvent her authority.
And then she calls out that, but you're the one that told him.
Yeah,
too.
Right. But
she calls out Jon. She kind of calls
out everybody.
She calls out everybody who's led to this point. Yeah.
And they end up bringing Varys out. Tyrion has that moment where Tyrion tells him, "Hey, it was me." And
I like that. There's that mutual respect there.
Yeah, they know how to play the game. Yeah. We've talked about Varys and Tyrion being a couple of the people remaining. Sansa's still alive. We didn't see her in this episode, but she's still a player in the game. But yeah, there were two of the big players still left, so I liked that too. It was like a little acknowledgement.
There's a little bit of a honor among thieves sort of thing where I know you were trying to do the right thing, but I can't do anything to save you at this point.
Yeah, and so okay. Anybody have a problem with the way he died?
I don't. Personally, I mean, I think Varys, if I want to be critical, he would have been smarter about how he was going about.
Yeah, he was pretty out in the open about it by now.
So, if I want to be overly critical, I might have an issue with that part. But we kind of saw this coming, I think, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't really disappointed necessarily. I like Varys' character, but...
Literally, to answer your question about how he died, Dracarys... A little bit of an overkill.
Yeah, I was more surprised. I thought the point of Grey Worm and Jon being there because Varys isn't a violent person,
right?
Is that they would have killed him. I didn't think the dragon was going to come out of nowhere, and of course nobody else gets hurt by this huge burst of flame.
Yeah,
but
there does seem to be an inconsistency with the explosive radius of dragon fire.
Yeah, I saw him took out a castle.
It's so controlled.
Yeah. But then he snipe shot Varys.
You don't see somebody in the background going, move aside, please stay back 5 feet,
Yeah, you're on the crosswind.
I think that this does speak to Daenerys, though. This is kind of her public execution method. Is to light people on fire. It's making a point. It's exemplifying her power. It's really posturing, I think,
it's fear
in ways. So
I think they come and circle back on that theme later.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, let's try to hold off on anything.
Sure.
Yeah. She'll be a huge component of this conversation. So let's just then discuss that they kind of show up outside King's Landing. Mm-hmm. The dragon comes down, obviously wipes out Euron's fleet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to mention the scene between Tyrion and Jaime.
Really
quick as well.
Sorry,
that's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to touch on that eventually.
Yeah. So Dany in her council basically room with Tyrion basically says, "Do not."
After Tyrion admits that he was the one to release the secret that
in the throne room,
was the truth.
They're in the throne room, and she basically says, "Don't." Our people caught Jaime. He was sneaking in with his hand on.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't take your hand off your golden hand and put it away. But they caught him trying to sneak back into King's Landing. So they, took him prisoner. She said, don't let this be a, mess up again. Don't let me, don't dismiss, take away my trust because it's the last thing you're going to do. And of course, he immediately goes to Tyrion, or goes to Jaime and has a very heart-to-heart conversation.
Yeah.
Tries to convince him to get Cersei out of there. And
just live a long and happy life. Just secluded and enjoy life. You don't need power to do that.
That's a very heartfelt moment. But here, this is such a mistake by Tyrion because I've hated how they handled Jaime, and we can talk about that in a few minutes. But with Cersei, the idea that he's not letting Jaime go is one thing, but letting Jaime go so he can go get Cersei to get Cersei out of there so that she lives is a completely different thing. And I just think that is something where you really can't play both sides of the war here. And if you were to tell me that she kills Tyrion, I would tell you, yeah, it makes sense. He's not he's not making logical decisions as an actual hand of the king or queen to the person he's representing. He is conflicted, to say the least. He doesn't want his family to die, and that's fair. But he also shouldn't then be the top advisor to the woman who's trying to usurp his sister, in my opinion. So, thoughts on that then?
Yeah, I really liked this scene. I thought it was a great acting moment just on that level as well. I mean, Peter Dinklage is phenomenal. We've talked about how awesome he's been throughout this entire series at length. So I really enjoyed this kind of send-off moment between Tyrion and Jaime. I thought it was a great scene. And yeah, I think it speaks to that confliction he has, just like you're saying, with, he's trying to support the queen he's pledged his loyalty to, but where does your loyalty lie with your family, and how important is that versus your loyalty to the crown? So I thought it was good that they addressed it at this point. And ultimately, Tyrion, I do think it was kind of surprising that he was pretty much begging Jaime to save Cersei so they both could go off and live happily ever after, essentially, just like you were saying, Nate, which he doesn't have much love for Cersei. Yeah. So
no, not at all.
I wonder if that was also out of his love for Jaime, because it's very clear Tyrion and Jaime have had more or less a positive history together, I would say, and he even addresses that in this scene, that it was because of Jaime in a lot of ways that Tyrion was even still there. So it was a really good scene, I guess, to sum it up.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
To really enjoy that scene, too, like you're saying, Joe, if you look back at all of the interactions between Jaime and Tyrion, Jaime is always coming to his rescue. And all the conversations that they have when Tyrion was incarcerated in...
Season 2, I think.
Season 2 or is it season
4? Tyrion's in season 4.
4. In season 4, where they just have these kind of conversations where he's in prison the whole time. But it just builds up kind of this relationship for you for that scene to mean so much between those two brothers.
Yeah, no, I agree, and obviously it's interesting because the route that Jaime has to take based on that he has to go into the castle via the way he's supposed to exit the castle is really interesting because Euron's just chilling.
Yeah, he just
which is great.
Happens to wash on shore.
Yeah.
So moving forward, then let's just kind of burst through this first battle.
Do you want to touch on the Jaime fight?
Towards the end.
Okay.
Because I want to get to people dying.
Okay.
But I want to get to just basically the standoff. The Golden Company destroys the Iron Fleet, basically.
Yeah, just
pretty
torches
easily.
it.
Able to dodge every arrow this time, which is good. Basically just starts destroying the castle.
So how powerful are dragons' breasts to knock down like stone towers?
Did you say dragon's
walls?
breast or dragon's breath?
Breath.
Okay.
Yeah, those.
I don't know either one of them.
Breaths.
Breast or breath. I have no idea. I have no idea how to quantify.
Powerful.
I don't know how to.
Pretty powerful.
I don't know how to quantify that.
Yeah,
Dragon or drag?
Give me a unit of measurement on that.
Dragon's breast or dragon's lady's breast, because those are two different things.
Let's just put it in a generic units category, right?
What's the conversion table on that?
Yeah, 7. It's a base.
Yeah, I mean the dragon. Again, we spoke to this, and we'll get to its actual desecration of King's Landing civilians later, but it just completely took out all defenses.
Yeah, I'm glad we got the shot that we had discussed, where it just lines up along the walls and just torches those scorpions all in a row, just flies down the wall. Yeah, they just meant nothing.
Jon and Grey Worm lead the charge.
Yep.
With Davos.
Davos is there. That was cool.
Grey Worm just smokes Harry Strickland.
I think you see a huge start to see that delineation between Grey Worm is like going off the deep end as well.
Yeah.
To where he is just anything Daenerys says, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm ready to kill
totally.
no matter what.
He's just
Which
there
is kind of his MO in the first place.
Yeah.
He's a soldier, but
yeah.
Jon Snow's kind of thinking like, I don't know if I'm going to stab in the back or what the deal is here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and this conflict, they had that Daenerys-Jon confrontation where she's like basically wanting to like fall in love with him again and like kiss him and stuff like that at the beginning of the show. And she's like, is it going to be love or fear? And he doesn't really reciprocate. And she says, okay, fear. And that's what she's going with. And, no matter how much Jon says, you're my queen, there's definitely clearly a part in Jon's back of his head that he's second-guessing stuff. But, that goes to their conversation where maybe he doesn't know if Grey Worm has orders, But they run through the Golden Company. They run through basically the Red Keep. They come face-to-face with the
Lannister army.
Yeah. The Lannister army throws down their swords. Grey Worm
goes, let's get him. Now's our chance.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is let's go into this King's Landing then. So Dany burns everything down. Before this confrontation happens, the bells start ringing.
Exactly.
Okay, and this is what Tyrion wanted. Tyrion specifically asked Jon, stop when the bells are ringing.
Mm-hmm. And he made the same plea to Daenerys as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Jon was yes.
Jon of course Jon was. Yeah, Jon was like, yeah, absolutely.
Now,
if they surrender, we're going to honor that.
Dany burns everything out that's a threat. Purchases the dragon. And just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
And you can just see her face transitioning, right?
Yep.
And she's just thinking, she's processing. What's going through her head right now?
Either she's thinking, there's a means to an end here, and I have to do this in order to ensure power on the Iron Throne, and then I'll make everything better after the fact.
Okay.
Or it's become personal. I've heard this theory too, that it's personal, right? That she doesn't have anyone behind her, and that she knows what happens to people who have essentially are considered treasonous to the king or queen.
Okay.
And she's not going to let that happen. The thing that throws me off, though, is she doesn't go right to the Red Keep. She goes right through the streets to kill all the people, too.
She just goes on strafing runs.
Yeah, just back and forth.
So let's
and she obviously knows there's clear innocence.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, let's push Dany to the side.
Okay.
We're going to come back to Dany as a whole because I want to talk about her transition. I want to talk about the history we have built up of maybe is she a Mad Queen? Is she not a Mad Queen? Is this deserved, not deserved, stuff like that. But once the stuff takes place, the strafing, Grey Worm, Jon Snow, and the Army of the North just basically butcher the Lannister army, right? And now Jon doesn't do it, but what Jon does is, for some reason, he's trying to yell people to get back, get back, get back. I understand. Everybody that's clearly charging him, Jon's killing them as they're coming at him, though, right? But what he starts to notice, or at least we notice, is the Lannister army, the Dothraki that somehow survived, the Unsullied, they're raping women, they're pillaging, they're killing women, they're killing children, they're killing men, they're just slaughtering everybody. And that's going on while the dragon's going on. So it's just a mass chaos of disaster. Jon's witnessing the dragon. Tyrion, who's kind of entered the archway of what used to be the doorway, is watching the dragon. So I took it as this is war, though. Like, this is the concept of war as total war. And even though Jon doesn't understand that, like, I don't think Grey Worm's necessarily snapped, but Grey Worm just is a soldier.
I think at this point, I think Dany has already started her strafing runs, and Grey Worm's like, oh, okay, we're still going.
Yeah.
He sees his queen doing that, and that's all he needs to be like, all right, we're still moving forward. And he wouldn't need much urging. He's clearly in rage mode at that point where he flips the spear back up and throws it across the courtyard.
Totally awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I really like the dynamic throughout this entire sequence of Jon slowly becoming more and more horrified throughout the destruction that he's witnessing. And just like you mentioned, Garrett, he's trying to control his men, and he can't do anything about the Unsullied or Dothraki. He knows that, but he's trying to hold back the Northmen, like, hey, no, this is not who we are, this is what we do, and they're not listening to him either. No. And so he ends up killing his own guys when that one soldier is trying to rape the woman in the alley. He's like, spears him.
I think they say he's a northerner too, right?
Yeah.
So to have one of his subordinates attack his own kind, a northern man, is just a key to show how much chaos is occurring. Yeah. And probably the power struggle that will ensue after this is who really does control who?
Well, that's fair, but like it's also to the idea of it's war. It's not a clean war. It's, these are innocents. You're conquering these people. This killing of the children and the women, and no matter who they are, they're just slaughtering these people. What do you think Tyrion's thought is when he's just standing there in the doorway? What do you guys think Tyrion's thinking?
Oh, utter despair and betrayal at this point.
How about utter betrayal that Varys was 100% correct?
Yeah, I think he's mad at himself, I'm sure. As well, because yes, Varys laid out everything that could become a potential problem, and Tyrion, just as you already mentioned, Garrett, is trying to play both sides, kind of, like, he understands that the Lannister army's going to be pretty well destroyed, but he's holding out hope that the civilians wouldn't be, and he's holding out hope that at least Cersei can escape. Yeah. So he's trying to, kind of play both sides, and clearly that does not work at all.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the scene where Tyrion meets up with Dany earlier on in the episode, and they start talking about, okay, when the bells ring, do not attack any further.
Yeah.
We've won, and King's Landing is ours. And Dany just dismisses it, kind of like, yeah, okay.
Well, her look at the beginning of the episode, she looks like she hasn't slept. She definitely has like this like sunken face.
Right.
She's distraught. Like
crazy
she clearly,
hair.
Yes.
And I think too. I know we were talking about that dynamic with Jon as well, actually in the streets, and it all hinges on the bells, of course, right? Jon's a very, very honorable person, so of course he hears the bells, and you can tell that moment of tension before Dany starts the strafing runs where both sides are like, okay, are we stopping now? Like, Jon is very cautious, but as soon as he hears the bells, Jon is for sure like, I'm not fighting. Prior to that point, being honorable, he would have only been fighting against enemy soldiers. So,
correct.
Yeah, once it turns to the civilians, that's a horrific moment for everybody.
Unarmed.
Yeah.
Soldiers.
That too, because they threw down all their weapons.
And not gonna lie, I thought they were gonna burn the bells. I thought that she would have gone right to the bell and started burning the bell first to stop it, and then just went crazy. So she goes on these strafing runs, just massacring people, which we didn't really mention at the beginning, but the Hound and Arya are obviously in this mix at this point. They had snuck into the city.
That was interesting to see them sneak into the city, too.
Yeah, as well. They had to get in because, remember, they cut them off. They cut people off, and that's why Jaime doesn't get in, but the Hound and Arya get in.
That's right.
And
so he pushed those civilians out of the way to get in
there.
there.
And Drogon just goes through it, and he's massacring building after building. People, kids, children, again, doesn't matter. Everybody's getting killed here, right? Burning everything. Starts destroying the Red Keep. And like they said, the force of which the fire can just knock down brick, not just burn it, but knock it down. Obviously, at this entire time, Cersei, the Mountain, and Qyburn are up there watching it. And finally, they're like, listen, you can't stay here. And finally convinces her to retreat after she realizes, like, the entire city's on fire.
Yeah, like there's nothing to be done.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so, Arya, Hound make their way up. I'll get to Jaime and Euron in a second. But Arya and Hound make their way up. Mountain, Cersei, Qyburn coming down. Qyburn tries to make conversation. Mountain just destroys Qyburn. Kind of an awesome kill.
Yeah. It's kind of weak because everybody likes Qyburn, I think. I don't think there's anything wrong that anybody dislikes him. But I think it's kind of cool with the respect that his own creation kills him, kind of like a Frankenstein story.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what's great too is we discarded Qyburn like we did again with Valyrian Steel, Bronn, Brienne, all these Brienne's love story with Jaime, all these people that we just discarded. Let's be honest, the idea that Jerome Flynn, Bronn, has not been in this season is an atrocity.
Shocked he did not show up at some point.
Because if you're going to put a popularity list of characters and their popularity, Bronn would have to be near the top of everybody's list. And for him to just be almost a no-show in this season is really bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully he makes an appearance in the next episode.
He's got
if he doesn't,
that'll be awful if
disaster.
He does not. Yeah.
But, so, obviously, Cersei just kind of does the sidestep, just kind of walks out.
You guys do that, I'm going to go out this way.
And you have the Clegane Bowl.
Yeah.
But before we get to Clegane Bowl,
okay.
Arya has a conversation with the Hound.
She does.
The Hound convinces Arya to not be like her and to leave. And that finally, to my happiness, Arya does not kill Cersei. Thank God.
So far.
What?
We don't know.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Did you see Cersei die?
I did not. You are correct. Jaime? I did not.
We touch on that later.
Okay. Right. Somebody's got some theories, conspiracy. Somebody's been on
some theories sticking around.
Somebody's,
All right.
So, Arya Hound. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy that. He's kind of like, I'm here for one purpose. It's been lingering in the back of my mind my entire life. I've come to terms with it. I'm pretty much going to have to kill myself in the process. You get out of here because it's consumed my entire life. Don't let revenge do the same thing to you as it did to me. Just kind of sum up that speech as a whole really quickly.
How come he's able to get to her get through to her when other people can't?
Because I think he and her actually respect one another so much because they spend so much time with one another. And Arya's there too. She's to that same point to where she has that mentality where this is your goal, go do it. No excuses, get it done. And they share that too at this point. So I think it just resonates with her, and she respects his opinion.
Did you like the
I agree.
Tyrion Jamie conversation better, or the Arya Hound? What one meant more to you? Like as a show, which character saying goodbye meant more?
Okay, for me personally, it was the Hound and Arya, actually.
Okay.
I also really, to your point, Nate, I thought it was a really important scene, and it made a pretty big impact, too, where Arya does have that focus, just like you were saying. They both share that, especially specifically for revenge. Arya on Cersei, the Hound on the mountain, of course, and the fact that Arya does listen to the Hound, like you were saying, someone she respects, someone who she knows has more experience, who kind of quest for revenge has consumed his entire life. And I think it's finally her being able to take a step back and let go of that hatred in a way. And so I really thought that dynamic was great.
I actually enjoyed Jaime Tyrion a lot more.
I agree with you, Nate.
As much as Arya and the Hound, they're so, like, if you want something done, just go do it. And they just share so few words, it's hard to really gain that emotional response to it. So, but with Jaime and Tyrion, they've had so many interactions with one another, and you learn to understand how much respect they have for one another and what they can bring to the table. Mm-hmm. I'd have to say it's Jaime.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's not that one has more respect for the other than one group does.
Yeah,
right? I mean, we're talking brothers versus arguably like a father figure, really, and maybe the most apt father figure she had since Ned Stark, which is kind of ridiculous when we think about it. But I just think that maybe it's because less is more with Arya and the Hound, unfortunately, and obviously people want more, but less is more. So you want that Jaime, Tyrion interaction because their entire relationship is talking and giving each other crap and being funny, and the fact that they're being so heartfelt to one another, it's different.
And Arya and the Hound are more of like a head nod sort of thing,
right?
As opposed to you hear them describe how their feelings are.
That's true.
Like, what are you doing? I'm going to King's Landing. For what? Did I? Oh, me too. And that's all that's said. Then we're just going to trot off together.
Yeah.
And that's their conversation. So we get Clegane Bowl, Joe. You've been looking for Clegane Bowl for a while.
I have been.
Was it everything you wanted it to be?
I thought it was pretty cool. I would have liked to see more of a duel.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lame response.
Well, yeah, it is a little.
You're a little disappointed.
I am a little disappointed, if I'm being honest.
What did you like about it?
I didn't like. Really, the fight kind of turned into just this kind of punching back and forth, and I get he's stabbing him with the knife and everything. Why won't she die? I thought that was great. He's just yelling at him, trying to stab him, and he's not dying because he's already dead.
I love how all your characters have a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Oh, doesn't matter.
Sorry for my horrible impressions.
I can just see Arya.
Yeah.
I'm the faceless man.
But yeah, I would have loved it. It's the same reason, I guess, that I criticized how the White Walkers were treated in the Battle of Winterfell. I want one-on-one sword fight, like an extended sword fight, and they actually don't give us a whole lot of that in the show in general. No. Not too terribly much of it anyway. There's some outstanding exceptions to that, of course, but yeah, so I was looking for more of a duel than what it turned out to be, but it was cool. I still liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it did well. Those two aren't known for being fancy.
No.
They're not, what are they, water swordsmen or whatever they call themselves. They're just there to bash a claymore harder than the next guy and just kill him.
And get two chickens.
Two chickens. But, I mean, I think it's true to their character with that respect, right? They're just here to share blows with one another, and whoever's standing in the end, they're the winner.
And I was disappointed in it, but I was not looking forward to it. I knew that they were going that route with it, and that's fine. I knew we were going to see it. Because the mountain has been dead, I think if you go back and rewatch their first encounter, I think in the first episode at at Winterfell, in the first season, when he's still alive and they're at the joust.
That's right. He's defending the King of Flowers.
Yes, Nate's the Prince of Flowers, Nate.
Oh, I'm sorry, he's a prince at this time.
Yeah, that interaction was way cooler to go back and rewatch now versus because the mountain just can't die. He doesn't see it. He doesn't have any interaction. He's not talking. There's nothing from the mountain's perspective. There's nothing here more than just I kill what's in front of me. Whereas the Hound's this is my brother. I need to put him out of his misery.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more of a connection, I would argue. The fact that he completely ignores Cersei and kills Qyburn to be like, nope, I'm staying, I'm killing the Hound. So I think there is a part of him that definitely knows who the Hound is and still harbors this hatred for him. So
I think it does the Mountain a disservice. I'm going to use that word again. Just because the Hound is so much more skilled as a fighter, as it shows in season 1, to where he kind of dodges the blows so easily in season 1 versus now, where they're head to head, and somehow being dead makes him more agile and whatever. But
he doesn't get fatigued.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
But then the Hound should be more agile with that respect too, and just dodging the blows. But anyway, that's what I took away from it. It's just,
did anybody think we were going to get an Oberyn situation where he grabs him by the head and starts pushing his eyes in?
Yeah, being Game of Thrones, I thought, like, oh gosh, is the Mountain actually gonna crush the Hound?
Did anybody think that the Mountain would have killed the Hound and that Arya would have killed the Mountain?
I thought maybe that would have happened.
I thought you told me that you were hoping.
I was hoping it didn't happen.
Oh, it didn't happen.
I don't need her to kill everybody in the show. That means something. I think she's an amazing character. I'm fine with her training as an assassin. Great.
Do you want to jump into that, or do you want to wait?
For which one?
Arya.
We can come back to Arya in a second.
Okay, all right.
So let's go to Jaime. So the Hound ends up laughing it off. Somehow only gets blinded in one eye. Realizes he's got
didn't get crushed.
Realizes he's got to basically tackle this guy through the wall. Falls into a fire.
Yep.
Dies. We don't see the body.
Yep.
True.
Into fire. Right?
From
So
50 stories.
The story of them kind of becoming who they are, the Hound becoming who he is, versus
Clegane Targaryen doesn't burn now. All of a sudden. Let's just assume
it's a hybrid.
Let's just assume they're both dead.
Okay.
For argument's sake, put them in the dead column. And at this time, Cersei has now made her way to the map room, and she makes her way, right? But Jaime ends up getting into the Red Keep. He has to circle back around to the beach where Euron, who has survived the original, Iron Fleet being destroyed, washes up on shore and immediately starts poking fun at him. Starts talking about how he slept with his sister, that's his baby in there, and they end up having a sword fight. And Euron essentially beats him. Like, let's be fair, Euron gets the best of Jaime here.
I'm going to go backwards a little bit. That dude just swam like the English Channel, getting from his boat to land.
I agree with you.
As far away as those boats were.
Yes, when Cersei's looking out at the ocean, those boats are on the other side of the channel. Absolutely. It's so much farther than just outside King's Landing.
I'd like to take this moment to point out how often this is a weird plot device in Game of Thrones. Like, someone should supercut the number of times people wash up onto the closest shore. It happens in Dragonstone repeatedly.
Yep.
It happens with Euron in this scene. That's like their thing. Like, oh, this person we did not see die or like watch die at sea, so they're going to wash up on the shore for a dramatic
location.
re-entrance. Yeah. I know. It just strikes me as funny that that's a plot
What
device.
did you guys think of this interaction? I was looking forward to this.
I
thought this would be different, though. I thought that he would have made it back into King's Landing. I thought he would have been with Cersei.
Yeah.
Euron would have been there. I thought they would have been like kind of having this like verbal confrontation throughout the episode. Finally, them dueling each other. And I thought, honestly, Jaime would have killed Euron, like, which we assume he did to some degree. Didn't see him die, but we assume that Euron died.
You should have been a writer. I would have loved to have seen the interaction between Cersei in the room while those two go at it.
Well,
I thought
that there was a way to make it more entertaining with those two trying to compete with like basically like the idea that Euron doesn't know it's not his baby, and keeps kind of like peppering Jaime with these comments about the baby, and Cersei like don't tell him that kind of thing, and finally like he just lets it out, and Euron kind of freaks out because Euron was a guy that didn't ever really seem to be controlled, and I thought it would be easy for him to kind of snap and he be the one that kind of turns on Cersei, at which point then he duels Jaime. Like that's what I was expecting, that type of a confrontation, not just like, hey, I slept with your sister, that's my baby, and then they fight on the beach, and Euron bests him.
Yeah,
Euron
does.
beats him. Essentially, Jaime does end up stabbing him through, and we assume he's going to die. As he sits there, looks up, and says, kill the Kingslayer.
Yeah, he assumes those are fatal wounds.
Yeah, which
Jaime
probably were.
He gets him a couple times in like the kidneys and the back. Yeah, he's bleeding out slowly.
So Cersei and Jaime reunite. They make it down to the Red Keep. They realize that they are blocked in, that they love each other, and the ceiling basically comes down on them.
Yep.
And we assume that they got crushed. Nate doesn't buy it. Go into your theory.
Well,
Nate.
I don't know about the theory so much. Is what a lame way to take Jaime and Cersei Lannister out in one punch.
100% agree with you.
Right. So that's kind of why I don't think that this theory does not hold water as far as them dying from what you see. They may be trapped. They may find another way out. Whatever. But to have them go out so quickly and just together, I don't know. I don't think that's the way they go.
So I don't have as big of a problem with the fact that they died that way. I'd prefer them dying this way than Arya killing Cersei. What I have a problem with is the idea that for 5 years we've built this relationship between Brienne and Jaime, and then Jaime sleeps with her and he's like, nah. He kind of gets it and then he's like, I don't want it anymore, and he kind of leaves, and then all of a sudden he's like 100% back to Cersei now, and just Brienne doesn't mean anything.
The whole I ranted last episode about that, so I won't revisit. But I hate that was awful.
But here's the thing: everybody, I bet you the majority of people thought he was going to King's Landing to kill her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to reconfess his love to her and die holding her in his arms as they're together. That's what I'm saying. Talk about things they're discarding. Brienne and Jaime's relationship is on the ash pile of whatever else means nothing anymore. Yeah. They just disregarded it, and it just unfortunately happens to be after they slept together for the first time and he took her virginity. It's just there's such a trope there about this frat boy who went back to King's Landing
so dumb.
to his sister.
Gosh,
yeah. And I agree with you. There is a possibility that they survive. The reason why I don't believe so is they have a lot to deal with in the last episode that I don't think they can deal with a trial or an execution or dealing with her and him, because I think he has to die, because if not, how's Tyrion going to work this? And we still got to, unless we're doing a 2-hour episode, which I don't think we are.
No, I think it's confirmed. It's like that 80-minute runtime or whatever.
I don't think we have time to put these guys on trial. I think we're going to the city's from the next episode shot. It's just gray. The entire show, the entire episode, looks like it's ash.
Yeah, it does.
Starks and Daenerys, I think, that's the episode, right?
Yeah, it's got to be. That's what it's come down to.
At this time, Jon's trying to save people. Arya's, trying to run back and help people. The dragon just keeps burning everything. I think that went a little bit long. The Arya aspect of it, I know that they're trying to change her mind about things, and that she's processing stuff during this time period, and her character is shifting during this survival mode. But we did 4 or 5 different strafing runs where she almost gets killed. She saves some people, doesn't save some people, and it went a little bit long in my opinion.
Garrett, you must have liked this a lot in this episode. Arya is useless throughout this entire episode. She doesn't do anything.
No, hold on. It's not that I don't like Arya. I do like Arya. I don't need Arya to be the ultimate weapon. She's like Drogon then. If she's taking out the Mountain, if she was taking out Cersei and the Night King, it's not that I don't mind her taking out the Night King. If she was preparing for 5 years to take out the Night King, we had all this information and backstory of Jon and the Night King. Jon and the Night King. I'm kind of hoping for a one-on-one sword fight.
Yeah.
Jon got within about 50 meters. And then nothing.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't need it to be a good or bad ending. I want it to be an appropriate ending. I'm looking for appropriate story arcs based on what they told me for 7 seasons mattered. And then they're just discarding things because, of course, we're rushing stuff.
And I think we might have mentioned this during the Battle of Winterfell episode, where the showrunners kind of intentionally, I don't think they made some of the... I'm not just talking about Arya right now, just in general, where they sat down, they had their script, they had everything that they were writing out in front of them, and they were like, okay, yeah, but how do we pull the rug out from under people? So they kind of, I think, are shoving aside plot points that we want to see fulfilled and plot points that make sense just for the sake of doing something that no one will expect. And if there's not a good plot point behind why it's unexpected, it kind of falls flat. And I think that's what a lot of people are having issues with, is that just pulling the rug out for the sake of going, I gotcha, that's poor writing.
I understand. We can just throw away a 5-season arc of a relationship between Brienne and Jaime, but somehow we have to hold on to, you're going to close brown eyes, blue eyes, and green eyes. Like, we need to hold on to that comment from season, 3. That one little interaction for 2 minutes. We have to hold on to that. But we can't hold on to Jamie and Brienne for 5 seasons worth of story.
Right.
Like, that's a frustration. That's, first off, that's sloppy writing. And that's just being, lip service to your fans. Listen, it's not to say this show can't be, women empowerment. This entire show is absolute women empowerment. Men mess everything up and women are saving the day. You don't necessarily need the smallest, youngest badass to kill the Night King, considering there's been never an interaction between her and the Night King, her and a White Walker for that matter, and Jon has been going over, twice has been interacting with the Night King, and it's his destiny to save the North to kill this guy. That's why I'm saying, that is to me lip service to women's movement in this show to let Arya be the one that takes him out.
Gotcha.
I know, you can disagree. No comment. Nate loves Arya. Do you love Arya?
Yeah, I agree. If she was to take everybody out, it would be...
Yeah.
To be fair, she hasn't, though.
Right.
And now she can't. In terms of taking out Cersei, taking out the Mountain,
Thank goodness.
I
would have been fine with
this
her.
episode was good for her character to realize, I can kill people and assassinate, onesie twosie or whatever.
Onesie twosies.
But I don't have the destructive force of a dragon.
Yeah. She was...
In fact, I'm at the mercy of Dany, honestly.
Well, I thought
it did well.
I thought what's interesting too is maybe she, this really kind of short circuits her killer in her to be hey, maybe Gendry is my future, not the Hound.
Or maybe really understand the repercussions of killing too.
Yeah.
And how many people it really affects.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, it's very true. I think this is very much an episode where, in terms of our fight or flight response, Arya is very much fight, 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And this is making her do the opposite. She's having to run away. So I think, it is. It's a moment of self-realization, I think, for her. And she was, going to throw it out there, she was probably my favorite part about this. I actually really did like her struggle in the streets of King's Landing, trying to save especially the mother and her daughter. That part was heartbreaking. She tried to kind of, first the mother falls, and she's trying to then save the daughter after that. Then the daughter goes back, then the strafing run. So that whole scene, I was buying into the intensity of it. I was on the edge of my seat watching Arya try to get out of there alive. So that...
Well, hold on. At no point did you think she was going to die.
Yeah, I did. That...
Oh, Joe. Come on.
I thought she might have...
You're so gullible.
Joe! This is the one character that is going to survive.
You cannot on a show like Game of Thrones say oh, how could you think that she would die in this scene? It's Game of Thrones, where the showrunners, once again, to revisit the fact they intentionally are writing scenes to pull the rug out from under you.
But not
Come
Arya.
on.
Not Arya. Nate, jump in here.
$10, Arya dies.
Next episode? Who are you betting?
Wait, what am I...
Yeah, who are you betting?
Well, I was going to handshake with Joe.
Okay, I'm betting
there's only
she
one
dies.
episode.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say Arya dies
No,
next
you think
episode?
she survives, right? Huh? You think Arya
No,
survives?
he was arguing that...
Now I think she will survive to... Yes.
I am arguing if there was ever a character they were not going to ever kill off, it's Arya. She's by far the most plot-armored character in this show. And has been.
I'm
Yes.
saying that's...
What's her purpose in episode 6?
Probably right now to kill Dany.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I like a theory about that, which maybe we'll get to in a bit.
Okay.
I won't jump
That's
in on
fine.
that right
But,
in a second.
but my theory
I'm
about
going
it
to
is...
save my $10 for another bet.
Yeah, I think her list just became one name after this episode.
Yeah, I agree with you. Very much so.
I think her mentality and her list changed too, right? It's to take the Varys mentality as what is best for the realm.
Yeah, I agree. She's going to be that assassin with a conscience now. Let's go to Joe. You jump in here because I don't have the wherewithal to have that conversation about the white horse. So you give us the white horse.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that
overall...
cocaine? Isn't that another nick? Never mind.
Yeah, so after Arya has survived this horrible ordeal in the streets of King's Landing, she kind of stands up out of the ashes and the wreckage, and she sees a lone white horse in the streets. From just a pure cinematic filmography perspective, it was beautifully shot. I thought it was really eerie, very haunting.
Joe, for the layman's, not me. What does that mean?
Yeah, looked really cool, Nate.
Yeah, not for Nate, for the people
No,
at home.
I mean, let's read into it. What is the white horse?
Oh, what is the white horse?
actually
Okay,
represent?
for the record, I think this is a horse that showed up at the right time to help Arya get out of the city. That's what I think. However, the internet disagrees. At least some parts of the internet disagree. I've heard a fan theory, dear God, I hope this isn't true, that it is Bran warging into the horse to appear and help Arya. People want poor Bran. I get it, guys. I also want Bran to like do something cool with his abilities, and I don't think we're gonna get it. We have one episode left, and he hasn't done anything cool yet. So I'm sorry, guys. He didn't warg into this horse. I don't think that's what happened.
There was such. Let me hold on.
Sure.
Talking about like my Game of Thrones rewrite, he should have been killed.
Okay.
Wait, where? Why?
The Night King should have killed him. Like, if you want Arya to kill the Night King, you want to make me happy with that death, then he gets to succeed in killing Bran, as Arya then kills the Night King directly after, as he is distracted.
I like it.
Because, let's be fair, since Bran has survived, there is absolutely zero impact he has had on the show.
I know.
And there's nowhere to take him, unless he's ultimately going to sit on the throne, which, barf.
Well, okay, so he's like damn near omnipotent, right? He knows everything in the future, he knows everything in the past, but he won't tell you anything about the future or the past for fear of like changing anything. So what use are you?
Right.
But you get the idea too that he does kind of meddle a little bit. So then the fact that he's not sharing what he knows is even more frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
he's like, I know everything, but I can't tell anybody anything.
Let's put this on the record then. If he knew that this was going to happen, he basically just watched thousands of people get massacred.
Yeah.
Like, that's on him.
I agree with you, but I also think since he's the three-eyed raven, like, he's so detached. I don't feel anymore. Like, he's made all these comments that he's...
I bet he feels. If somebody were to put a sword in him, I bet he feels.
Well, yeah, true. But I think he's completely detached from everything. If I was to rewrite it, I don't want him to die. I think he could have been such a cool character. The fact that he can see all these different things, like if he'd been more engaging and he'd been given more to do, I think he could have been a really compelling character. But why he's so frustrating, as we've all addressed, is that he has arguably one of the most important power, not even arguably, he has the most important power in the show, and he doesn't do anything with it.
What if we could have had the Night King, like, I don't know, grab him, and like, by their connection and touch, he somehow gets disrupted of his ability to be the three-eyed raven and goes back to just being Bran.
Oh, okay.
And like, and he's just this kid in a wheelchair, Lord of Winterfell. He just like stays up north. Like, that would have been okay too.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been interesting.
I just don't. If this mofo ends up on the throne, this show is going to drop out of my top 20.
Where are the odds right now with Bran?
I think he's leading.
He's leading?
Hold on. I keep going with
the okay, so
our research department's a little behind.
The White Horse. So
that's because we need an intern.
Bran warging, I think, is the more outlandish.
Right now. I got the sent to me on May 12th. Bran is plus 120 as the number one option to end up on the throne right now.
Holy cow.
Followed by Sansa, Jon
After
Snow.
episode 5?
Yep. So, Bran, Sansa, Jon Snow, Gendry, Dany, Tyrion.
What?
And Jon and Dany's baby. Peter Baelish still coming in strong.
Peter Baelish. I'm back,
if
guys.
you ever get odds that are 1,000 to 1,
Bronn, plus 5,000.
Really?
Bronn. He's going
to get his castle.
If Bran ends up on the throne, is that an ending we're wanting?
Wanting? No.
Jon Snow doesn't want it. Bran doesn't want it. Sansa wants it.
I'm just talking
she
about,
wants a north of her own, I suppose.
In terms of the ending we want to see happen, is that...
Yeah. Pigeonhole that. Or put a pinhole in pigeonhole. Pinhole this. We'll come back to this. Okay. Did you finish your White Horse?
I did not. I'm sorry. So the White Horse. Okay. Bran warging. Don't buy it, but that's a theory.
Damn horse.
The other one, which also came to mind, I've seen a lot of people talking about this just in terms of the imagery itself, which, I totally understand, is, of course, the passage from Revelations, paraphrasing a bit, but I beheld death, riding a white horse. So that is also some clear imagery. The fact that Arya is an assassin, that she has killed very high-profile people on the show, that she is becoming the embodiment of death, riding a white horse. So that's cool imagery. That I do buy was probably not an accident, but I also don't think it's something that is inherently like breaking the show, like Bran warging into the horse in order to do it. So
okay. So let's do Dany now. Dany obviously flips the script, burns the whole city down.
Right.
Everybody, I saw some stuff on Twitter that was really interesting about, there were some ladies that were very upset with this turn of events because to them, we essentially took the like they can't possibly put this woman on the throne now, and that the person that's going to end up on the throne is going to be a white male, and that made a lot of the Twitter universe angry.
SJWs.
Yeah. We're not that we're not sympathetic to the argument. I get it. It's frustrating. I subscribe to the camp that I know that there's definitely evidence of a Mad Queen existing, but I want you guys to build the case because I feel like they flipped the script awfully fast, and I feel like a lot of the stuff that she has done that people call her a Mad Queen for, I think are absolutely logical, understanding decisions that she has made. Like, I know that a lot of people talk about the Tarleys. First off, she offered them to surrender. It's not like they simply she just killed them to kill them. She said, you bend the knee, or I will kill you. Like, Jon Snow has executed people in the show. A lot of people have executed people in the show. I need you to build the case for me on why, because I don't think she deservedly should get the Mad Queen moniker. I mean, after what she did, yes. I don't feel like the way I understand how they got to X. I don't agree with how we got to X.
I actually agree with you. I will play devil's advocate here.
Play devil's advocate.
Okay, I agree with you, but I'll play devil's advocate. So I think there's an argument to be made here that even as far back as season 1 when her brother is killed and he has the gold poured over his head, the detached way she handles a lot of these situations is, I think, how we can point to her arriving at this point of Mad Queen. It's not the fact that, like, Jon also believes whomever passes the judgment should swing the sword. Jon buys that. I think he has been characterized for feeling remorse for his actions, for feeling that he has to do this out of necessity because this is the way things are, but you get the sense that he's not always even okay with the fact he has to do it. Dany being more detached from a lot of these situations when she crucifies all the people, lines them up, burning the Tarleys where she could have shown mercy if she really wanted to, if she wanted to lean into the fact that I'm not going to do the obvious thing, I'm going to be merciful, and even though you won't bend the knee, let's address this later, you're my captives, we'll figure it out. So there's been multiple times where I think she could have opted for mercy, where she does choose to go to an extreme.
I do think that watching her brother get gold poured on his head after he basically sold her as a sex slave is understandable.
I agree with you, Garrett. I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
You are not convincing me that she, like, you can't convince, like, there's no argument to be made that, like, this wasn't a rational choice for her to make, and I don't feel like for 7 seasons though, even though she has done things that are arguably horrible, I would not argue they are more horrible than anything else anybody else has done, up and including Jon Snow, the most honorable person in the show, right? Or one of them. But I think the idea is that we had a short circuit this season to push her to that. So all of a sudden, Missandei's death, I get the maybe losing of the dragon, but like, she lost another dragon and didn't turn to a Mad Queen. I just feel like for 7 seasons, we had her liberating people, being the voice of reason. Having some forms of times where she did have mercy. Only when they did come back and mess up again did she not have mercy. We built her up for 7 seasons as the breaker of the wheel, just to flip the script on her.
I agree with you. I think you go 0 to 100 in like 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
With her. And it's a cause of them trying to wrap everything up. But Jorah dying, that was so close to her. That was 100% loyal to her. Her 2 dragons dying as a part of the cause for this. Jon Snow rejecting her. Varys being, in her eyes, a spy. And understanding her true intentions. And those are my 4 main cases to say. And most of them are right there, right at the end.
There's a lot that happens
I get
right
it.
at the end.
I agree with you.
But again, to undeniably have everyone vote against you and say they're going to be civilian casualties in the millions and still continue. And if you watch her face when she's listening to the bells that are being rung in this episode, she knows this is like the point of no return.
Well, I just think about the idea that she's about to massacre these citizens where, like, in the previous seasons when she comes up to, like, the city of Marine, she makes it a point to not kill the innocents.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And then, like, here she is just, like, strafe running these people.
What flipped the switch to turn that, like, reasoning around on her, too, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's hard to... Can I stop playing devil's advocate now?
Listen, Joe.
Bandwagon.
Take the contrarian viewpoint.
No, I agree, though. I think that it did seem like a Darth Vader moment to me, where now, obviously, with Star Wars, he's Darth Vader, and then we went back to tell the story of Anakin becoming Darth Vader. I get it's not a perfect analogy. But the fact that in that scene with Anakin and the Emperor, that's always seemed like a light switch moment to me. That moment happens when it does because we know we need to get Anakin to turn into Darth Vader, regardless of how clumsy that transition is.
I love when we talk Star Wars, Joe.
I
love it.
that felt exactly the same here. I do not think that Dany would have actually done this at this point. The bells are ringing. She's won the battle. I think she is of sound mind enough to know that, okay, we're done here. I'm not going to torch everybody and completely burn all of my presumably new subjects in a fiery blaze. And it frustrated me as well. I think they could have restructured this a bit and kind of appeased that's impossible to do, but had it been received better by restructuring this a bit. They don't ring the bells right away. She starts strafing, and she looks pained by doing this, right? She starts strafing because she feels like she has no other choice. Her forces start to lose. Write that part in. Like, the dragon's the only thing that's helping her win. And so she strafes King's Landing a few times, still kills a bunch of people, but then the bells start to ring, and then she stops.
I think that's different.
I think that would have been such a better way to get across how far she's willing to go to get the throne, but that she's not insane either.
Yeah.
And obviously, unless they're trying to push the plot point that she is the Mad Queen, I
well,
think that...
Of course, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Nate had this great point that he brought up the other night when we were watching this. And do you remember what the point was, Nate?
Couldn't tell you.
But it was really great.
6 beers in the night, 6 beers in that night. I think you drink 6 beers faster than anybody else I know.
Thank you.
Welcome. He talked about the idea that the Iron Throne doesn't matter where the Iron Throne is at. That the Iron Throne doesn't have to be in King's Landing. The Iron Throne could be the throne in Winterfell. That if you could melt it down, the Iron Throne still exists somewhere else. Yeah. Right? Like kind of like wherever home is where you make it.
Yeah.
That was kind of an interesting point, Nate. I probably butchered it the way you said it. You actually said it really in a great way the other night.
I was probably very articulate.
You were.
Yeah, that's how I remember it.
Yeah, me too. It was a good point. Just the idea that
that's a great point.
Melting down the King's Landing doesn't matter. The throne still exists wherever they put the throne.
Right. It's more, and maybe it's to the comment of, I think Varys says it. It's where people perceive power.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about then. Is there anything I'm missing from this particular episode yet?
Oh gosh.
Touch on everything.
So I got Arya, the Hound, Tyrion, Jaime, Cersei,
Clegane Bowl,
Golden
Qyburn.
Company. Yep. Qyburn, Euron. We might be missing something, but I think those are
I'm missing.
The main.
We got Varys.
Freaking Bronn.
Well,
like I said, I hate that.
So, okay. So let's talk about the next episode then. What are you guys expecting in this next episode?
Justice.
For what does that even mean?
Justice.
I don't know. That's this ambiguous term I use. No, I mean, like, you want everybody to come to terms with who their character is, but I really don't know how they
let's do this. As of right now, next episode, who do you want on the throne?
Who do I want on the throne?
Who ends up on the throne?
Once again, I'm going to say there will be no throne. Let's make these official predictions again.
Well, we literally just
$10.
It down.
I'm bringing back the $10.
Yeah.
All right.
Lay down.
No throne. No quote-unquote traditional ruler of the Seven Kingdoms is my point. Okay. Regardless of throne status. Because, Nate, I did love that kind of analysis, right? But I'm going to say that there's no one ruler of the Seven Kingdoms.
The throne is where you make it, Nate.
I'm going Jon Snow to rule the Seven Kingdoms.
Okay. I'm going Sansa. I've been Team Sansa this whole time. I'm not leaving her.
Team Sansa.
Really disappointed she wasn't in this episode. That's the one thing I hated about being only 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Is we had an entire... First off, we had all the episodes without Bronn. Right. We had 2 episodes in a row without Cersei. And she's such a compelling character, too. There really wasn't a lot for her to do in this season.
But she didn't do anything in this episode either. She kept holding on hope that she had the strategy to win, and then she cried when it didn't happen.
You know what's funny is I was thinking about this particular battle, watching this, and then I thought about the Battle of Blackwater. When Lannister, when what's his name, Baratheon's army tried to take King's Landing. That's a much bigger difference in perspective from the second season to this season. Like, watching where they're coming from, and I get they're probably coming from another angle of the bay, but, like, King's Landing is so massive that it's a huge difference in the way they shot this Battle of Blackwater versus this particular battle. Like, if you think about the pure concept of that army overtaking this entire kingdom, city? Go ahead.
Sorry, that we didn't talk about Wildfire at all.
Which we saw.
Yes. Do we want to bring that up as a potential interesting plot development? Okay.
Yes, we do.
So, all right, cool. One of the interesting theories I saw out there as well was in regard to the brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes.
Oh, God.
All right, here we go. So,
Blue eyes being the Night King.
correct.
Brown and
Walter Frey.
Walter Frey.
You got
Okay.
Brown eyes.
Yep.
And then, so green eyes. We haven't had green eyes. Everyone thought it was Cersei. I actually think this is pretty cool. All right. So
Oh my God! I can't believe you're about to go down this. Huh? Okay, bring it.
When Dany is torching King's Landing, there are the reserves of wildfire that begin exploding. We know that it was actually the Mad King who kind of placed wildfire throughout the city. So I don't necessarily think this is a plot that Cersei hatched. I heard some people saying that as well. I don't buy that. I think it's just the reserves of wildfire that were referenced prior to that are being blown up by now the Mad Queen. All right, so there's a bit of a circle there, which I think is interesting. Anyway, fast forward to the green eyes. We don't get a shot of this, but presumably it would have been interesting to see Dany's eyes kind of glowing green from the reflection of this wildfire exploding.
Jesus.
So some people think
Does she
Arya's
have
gonna
green eyes in the first place.
Okay, let me ask you this. As a plot development, let's say someone's going to kill Dany.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's what we're getting at. Is this story not better if Jon does it?
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Let me ask you, is it going to be satisfying for Arya to kill Dany?
No.
No.
I'd be okay with it. If that's the route they take.
Maybe one deal with if Jon Snow witnesses Arya do it, because they have that conversation about is blood stronger.
In what world, though, does Jon Snow accept Arya killing Dany?
I think in the world that now he has.
I still don't think he's that...
Really?
Yeah.
I think... I
not
do.
To kill her, not to kill her.
Unless...
Okay.
I would say,
go ahead.
unless you see what she maybe enforces as the new queen. If she proclaims herself as the queen and she starts enslaving people, there becomes that. I mean, we have already passed the point of no return, but I mean, this is ridiculous at this point. Then Jon Snow kind of justifies it.
There are three potential people I think could kill Dany, if Dany's going to get killed. Jon Snow, clearly.
Right.
I think it could be clearly Arya now. I think that Tyrion Lannister.
Okay, yeah. That'd be...
Kingslayer?
Yeah, okay.
Queenslayer?
Interesting.
Just like her
Interesting
just
parallel
like
with Jaime. Yeah, okay.
Now, again, I just don't... I think story-wise, Jon has to be the one to do it. What?
Can I chime in? What if Bronn does it, Garrett?
As long as he's in the episode, I don't care what he does.
That's all I can... Yeah, just give him some screen time.
He can kill anybody as long as he's in the episode.
I like your thought of Jon Snow because of like the Greek tragedies, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
you
that's
build
true.
these relationships, and you have to do something that it's completely against your own will.
He's a tragic figure, Jon Snow is.
Very much so.
And
he is not
now,
to live a happy life.
That's assuming he survives somehow. Let's say, like, what makes us think that he doesn't get killed?
I predicted he would have been dead already.
Like,
what
Back
makes
to
you
what
think
we
he
were
doesn't get brought back to life?
But like, if you're Sansa, if you're Dany, and like Sansa's up there in the north, like you just watch this dragon absolutely destroy King's Landing. Like Sansa's got to realize, like, you have no chance if Dany wants to like force you to bend the knee.
Okay, so fantastic point, right? Let's say somebody assassinates Dany, right? What happens to the dragon at this point, right?
I've been trying to wrap my head around
Can
a good
anyone
way they're going.
control it? Is it wild?
They could make an interesting...
Do they kill it and then kill Dany?
Right? I don't know. They could make an interesting play here with Jon being a Targaryen.
Able to ride it, yep.
Yeah, having some control over the
survive
dragon.
Fire?
Yeah,
Listen,
hopefully.
somehow this dragon has to get taken out.
I think so
You
too.
can't have the dragon exist in this new world
Right.
of the new wheel or no wheel and have something that powerful exist.
Do you guys think...
I agree, too.
do you guys think that Sansa arrives at King's Landing with another army? Do you think she brings forces of the North back? Not Jon's forces of the North. I'm talking Tormund. Do you think there's a return possibility there? And Ghost.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So you said no throne. You said Jon. I say Sansa. Who do we think dies next episode? Do we think Dany dies?
Yes.
Okay. Do we think Jon dies? And if Dany dies, does Grey Worm die?
Yes.
And
I don't think Grey Worm or Dany are making it out.
And does the dragon die?
Also, yes. I'm gonna say my official prediction is yes on that.
Okay, so Dany's the Essos crew gets killed.
They're just wiped.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Dany goes. I think the dragon has to go. I think Grey Worm also has to go because he's fiercely loyal.
What about Tyrion?
I don't know. I think Tyrion might make it out of this.
But what's the role going to be? Does he stay hand?
What in your prediction that Sansa is the one on the throne? How perfect would it be if Tyrion is still the hand?
Totally agree. What if we wipe out though? Like if we think about the families like the Targaryens and the Starks, like that's like the Clintons and the Bushes. Like, doesn't everything just reset? I mean, there was a theory out there that I saw that like Dany and Jon have a Targaryen baby, right? Arya and Gendry have a Baratheon baby. Okay. Tyrion and Sansa have a Lannister baby. I.e., we have Lannisters, Tyrion, Baratheons, and Targaryens all over again, and the wheel keeps spinning.
I like that theory. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, just in a way represents the futility of everything.
Yeah, but let's be fair. There's three sets of couples aren't having babies in the next episode.
It's true.
So these babies don't exist. Like everybody who's thinking that this baby's going to sit on the throne, unless they're going to do an epilogue that shows like 10 years later, the baby doesn't come into play here.
Right. And I don't even know how they would end up explaining if Dany is pregnant.
She's not supposed to be.
She's not supposed to be. They haven't alluded to that, and she's probably going to die.
Right, so if they introduce that she's pregnant in this last episode, for what purpose?
Yeah.
And that would be terrible, too. Just to, like, last minute be like, oh, by the way, there's another heir to the throne.
Yeah.
Like, last second.
And the theory's been brought up, too, that this is where Gendry could come into play, just like you're saying. If now we've kind of built up Starks, Targaryens, so does it end up going back to Gendry at this point?
You're not that lucky, Jeff.
Does Arya find out that somehow she's pregnant? To find a Stark Baratheon.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. I do think she'll end up with Gendry. I do think that they actually end up in a relationship. I think this whole thing she survived. I think family and like not being an assassin. I think she's like short circuiting that assassin lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think she's going to settle down.
I kind of got that vibe. I think she'll probably finish out, assuming she lives. She'll finish out her quest, so to speak, at King's Landing, and then I didn't think that at first, but this episode, I agree with you. Her running through King's Landing like that and the sheer terror of everything.
What's the worst possible outcome for this next episode?
Democracy.
I hate
God forbid a republic.
Which I know that sounds really bad to say. Like
everybody gets an equal vote. Yuck.
Like in the sense of
something the Russians can have.
For the purpose of the show, of course. I'll clarify my statements here. I love democracy. For the purpose of the show, I think democracy would be a little bit too much on the nose of like a let's hold hands resolution to Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Once again, Game of Thrones specifically, I think it would be kind of a silly way to end it if they end up.
How about this? You said it shows in your top 5 right now. Is there anything this show will do? Like, can this show get knocked out of your top 5 with a bad ending?
You know, absolutely, right? It has very much to do with what kind of taste is left in your mouth with every kind of show, right?
I agree.
And we should touch on this on a future episode about how many shows are cut short or whatever and are ruined by the final season.
That's going to be our post Game of Thrones shows. We're going to talk about things like Lost and Dexter and other shows in mind that we enjoyed, but how endings and what their impact can be, and just shows in general like Breaking Bad, Sopranos, stuff like that. But I think it'll be interesting. Does anybody have anything final to talk about with this particular episode coming up? Anything that we were forgetting?
$10 on Danny dies. Anybody?
No, I think
I
she'll
agree
die too.
with you. Yeah, I think she will die.
Do we just get our money back?
No, no, that's not how gambling works.
What kind of odds do I get?
What they've done a good job of is at this point the fact we are so hesitant on how to predict this will end, because I truly have no flipping idea what they're going to do.
Because by this point, there's only supposed to be like 3 people surviving. There are way more people alive right now than there should have been. There should have been after 2 battles of that magnitude.
Yeah, that's true. There are definitely more characters. Even Davos is still alive. Like, there are a lot more people alive.
Yeah, that's fine. But I don't know. Brienne, what are we going to even see Brienne? And what's Brienne's role going to be?
That is
protect Sansa.
I'm hoping.
Podrick,
I want to see Sansa march down from the north. I want to see her bring Tormund, Brienne, Podrick, Gendry, everybody back with an army of wildlings and stand for what they believe in.
Dude, they're going to get smoked.
Oh, well, if they kill a dragon, that'll be an interesting battle.
Kill it with what?
Bran warging into the dragon, Garrett.
Oh.
I don't actually buy that.
And then he just drowns it. He just sits underwater until it can't breathe.
Let's run with that.
I don't know.
Let's run with that for a second. How do, presumably, you kill a dragon? Which I think they will have to do in this next episode.
One spear.
Okay.
And it took, one spear each for 2 dragons.
Yeah, so... Do we
fly it there and just let it sit there?
Yeah,
No.
Do we wheel up one more ballista and take a shot? Or is Bran actually... Is this his moment? Are we going to get a Bran warging moment that everyone wants? Who
wants Bran to warg anymore? I want
Bran to do something.
I do. I want Bran to warg into the dragon, overcome the telepathy that he has with Daenerys, and Dracarius... that wouldn't work. I take
You're
that back.
talking about just burn
her alive. When I was saying it out loud, it sounded way better in my head than when I said it out loud. But I just burn her to the ground, to ashes.
People have been... that would be cool. I know that she's fireproof, so it won't really work. But so people have been saying for a while now that the line where you won't walk but you will fly meant more than the birds, meant more than the ravens.
Are you sure? Because the battle, it was...
I hope so. It's so lame.
I agree. But this would be Bran coming in the clutch. The more I talk about this, it sounds ridiculous, but I would be 100% okay if that's how Drogon goes.
What if they were pushing Bran and they just pushed him off a mountain? And oops.
Who pushed him off a mountain?
Did he see it coming?
Yeah.
And if he did see it coming, would he stop it?
Maybe you better not. You'd better not.
Well, if you don't do this, this will happen. If you do it, this will happen. But whatever you want to do.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.
I'm calling it now.
Because
I'm calling for Bran.
Wouldn't happen unless you push me off this mountain.
I'll tell you.
Bring it home, Bran.
I'm just kind of ready. I'm ready for this show to be done. Is anybody else of that opinion? It's kind of like Game of Thrones fatigue?
A little bit. I've enjoyed this season overall just from being entertained, but we won't rehash it. I thought things were going to go differently in a number of different points than they have, so I'm good. I'm ready for it to conclude one way or the other, and we'll push on.
I mean, let's be fair. This is not our job. This is our hobby to critique shows. So we nitpick the show and we tear the show down. We do enjoy the show, and I do think it's a wonderful show, and I would highly recommend it for a lot of people for a lot of things.
Yeah, totally.
I just think that there are better parts of the show. And I think that, I guess I had higher expectations for it is all.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Anyways, Joe, do you have anything else to add for this particular episode?
I don't believe so. That about sums it up, I think, with where we're at.
We'll be back next week. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, email us at aliensandcowboys@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at alienandcowboy on Twitter. Joe's got the Facebook page up.
Yep.
We're going to be back next week with the final episode of Game of Thrones to tie this up. There's not just the season, but the series. And then we're going to come at you with the following week. We're going to talk about a lot of shows in general, like Nate talked about with endings and what to expect. And we'll be back to our normal movie breakdowns, deep dives going forward. Tell your friends, tell your families, go out to iTunes, hit the subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating. That really helps. And until then, everybody, cheers.
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 High in the halls of the kings who are gone, Jenny would dance with her ghosts, the one she had lost and the one she had found, and the ones who had loved her the most, the ones who'd been gone for so very long, she couldn't remember their names. They spun her around on the damp old stone, spun away all her sorrow and pain, and she never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave.